Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Analyst Café hosted by the IIBA Colombo Chapter. Today we are going to talk about an interesting and also I would say a pivotal topic in the modern society.
And that is AI application in customer service industry.
And to talk about that, we have a very special guest here who has been working in this industry for several years and also who had been working with this technology for that. And without further ado, let me introduce and warmly welcome Sajith Samaraweera, who is Managing Business Analyst, Senior Manager at Capgemini in the United States. Hi Sajith.
Hi Dhanushka.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How about you?
I'm fine too. Thank you so much. All right. To start off our conversation, let's just begin with describing a bit about your career background.
Absolutely.
And then also, interestingly, I think you have been a part of IIBA Sri Lankan chapter years back.
Yes.
Maybe you can add a little bit about that as well.
Absolutely. So I started my career back in 2009. As soon as I graduated from my university, I started becoming a business analyst. I'm a grad from University of Moratuwa, and I did CIMA, CIM, all the good stuff that I was told that you should do. Mm-hmm. And then I always wanted to become a business analyst. Okay. So I started my career at IFS as an intern in business system analyst. Okay. And then after that, I joined Virtusa. Mm-hmm. So with Virtusa, I've been there since 2010 to 2015, Virtusa Sri Lanka. It has been one of the best experiences that I've had as a business analyst. So selecting the career choice, business analyst, and then progressing as a business analyst over the years. So to coming back to your question, IIBA chapter, I was part of the IIBA chapter back in 2012, 2013, and 2014. Okay. So at that time, I think you guys have done an amazing job as IIBA chapter right now. At that time, it was more of, we had to, I'm sure that you're also going through the same challenges right now. At that time, it was very challenging for us to, there weren't many BAs as much as BAs that we have today. It was not a prominent role in the IT industry. Yeah. So there weren't many IT companies, there wasn't a defined business analyst role. So we had to make sure that all the IT industry people understood what a BA can do, what value they can bring to the table. So that was one of the key challenges. So we started doing that by redefining the role of modern business analysts back in 2012. And then we made sure our business analysts are mentored properly. Our business analysts go through, the study groups. We had a lot of sessions on domain knowledge. So that was a period. There were so many challenges, but then again, it's every interesting new opportunity has challenges, right? So in 2015, I left Virtusa, so I did not have any context or contact with IIBA chapter. I went to US in 2015, and it has been about 10 years now. I'm there. Right now, I work for, as you said, for a company called Capgemini. I specialize in Pega technology as well as Salesforce. And my main key area right now is artificial intelligence. I try to see how we can bring in artificial intelligence into customer experience design so that we can make sure that a customer is happy. So that has been my career. So career-wise, I've always been a business analyst. That's my passion. If someone asks me in 10 years, what do you want to do? I'll say, I want to be a business analyst. In 30 years, I want to be a business analyst. It's a remarkable thing. Like when you talk to,
it's your dream.
It's my dream job. Absolutely, it has been my dream job since I started learning about IT back in 2006. Okay. It's a remarkable feeling when you you talk to a customer and you understand what they really want and everything clicks. You feel you get that feeling, or I'm doing something to someone, helping someone. So I like to relive that. Okay. So it will always be the thing that I want to do. Yes, and of course, I think majority of you are also ready for the CBAP certification. I also got myself certified. Yes. Right now, I work for.
I can relate to what you said about the the challenges that you all had to kind of promote
Yes.
the business analysis back in 2012, 13 and all, because even if I was about to be out from our university in 2015, people were just coming to, because I was applying for BA roles, and people in my same batch was kind of coming to me and asking, what does the BA role do?
Right,
Like
right.
what really it is.
Right.
So the awareness was less, I would say, back then,
Yes.
but I can relate to what you said about that.
That's absolutely a good point. I mean, if you look at the curriculums back then, majority of the universities didn't have much context on business analysis. It was just part of one methodology, right? You have waterfall, you have agile, and as part of that, you had to do business analysis. That was it. That's all what I learned from the university. But over the years, I think it has evolved into a level that all of us can benefit from, and it's a remarkable job if you really think of it. You're at the forefront of decision makers, right? You're doing you're helping the decision makers make the right decision in terms of, it could be technology decision, it could be business strategy decision, whatever. So if I try to explain, right now the exposure that I'm getting right now is, we talk to vice presidents of the companies, we talk to directors, the CX levels, not because I'm like a counterpart for them, because the role, because I'm a business analyst, I help them to take right decisions. So that's the exposure that you get, also the value that you bring into the picture, right? So yes,
that's really nice. Sajith, I would like to ask, now that you have worked in this domain of customer service industry, I have just gone through your profile, and you all have been trying to cater to that segment, and especially using AI and all. So maybe you can share a bit about the domain aspect that you've been working at, and also you are currently working with, so that we can get an idea on the context that you're working currently.
Absolutely. I think that's a very interesting question. Customer services industry, if you really look at a definition, right? So even before you look at the customer services definition, think of a business organization, like any business. They spend a lot of money in sales and marketing just to convert a customer, right? So you have a target segment, and then you try to make a customer. So if you look at the numbers, in the subscription industry, you average spend about $500 to $800 just to get a customer in from the target segment. That's significant, right? So your subscription is maybe $20, $10, whatever. But to get that customer at that point, you have already spent so much money in product research, so much money in marketing, business strategy, and then you convert a target segment customer to a paying customer. That's a significant level of effort, right? So you have to get the product right, price right, everything has to be perfect, and then you convert a customer into a customer who purchased your product, right? That's what you guys are doing, right? You guys are building a brand for all the business analysts to be around as IIBA chapter. You are making the product right, you have everything working for you guys, and then someone from business analyst community says, hey, I want to be part of IIBA chapter, I want to feel that enthusiasm, I want to be part of that brand, right? At that point, you have converted the customer. But what happens after that if you haven't delivered? You marketing and sales, they tell so many stories to make a customer come into their segment, right? Like to purchase a product. But after coming to that particular point where you have the product, after that, if you're not happy with it, what would the customer do? At that point, the customer, it's after sales, right? So customer would call the company saying, hey, I like this product. They will leave a feedback. If they're not happy, they will call the company and say, I don't like the product. So I like to define customer services as an industry of opportunity.
Is there any specific domain in the sense, like, let's say, any specific areas that you have touched with your experience?
Absolutely.
In the customer service domain also?
Yes, let's talk about it. Like if you really look at it, so it's an industry of opportunity, right? So when you talk about opportunity, I'll dive a little bit deeper into what I mean by an opportunity industry. So when a customer calls, you want your customers to be advocates of your product, right? You want all of your teammates to talk about IIBA chapter. That's what matters, right? So when someone calls, and that's the only point that you have an interaction with the customer. It's not just call, it can be any channel. It can be your mobile app, it can be your website, email, whatever. That's all customer services, right? So whatever the point that the customer interacts with the organization or brand, that's the opportunity. You want to make sure that the customer is happy, customer knows the product, customer understands how we can help the customer solve these specific problems, and then move forward. That's the opportunity industry. And to specify or narrow down your question, right? So when it comes to customer services, it could be a contact center. I specialize in contact center, right? And it could be a website. It could be your digital experiences, right? So whatever the digital means that you want to experience the customer company with, it's either a website, it could be your mobile app, whatever. All these things fall into customer service. Even your you have your SMS messages, your email, everything is a point where you interact with the company. And that's why it's an option, right? So if someone calls my company saying, how do I turn on the switch of this product, I want to make sure that the customer is happy, as well as I want to see like how much can I make a little bit more money out of it. Like, can I do an upsell, can I do a cross sell? All that opportunity is there. So it will always be an industry of opportunity. Yes.
So now that we talk about this domain and the other stuff, why customer service also matters to us, why do you think, in your opinion, we need to integrate AI? Why we should consider AI not just an application that we just build based on some logic or formula, not just the application. Why we need to integrate AI into this customer service?
I think that's absolutely good question, Dhanushka. AI, if you try to recall it, has been a buzzword for the longest time, right? I think even from early 2000, 2005, 2006, AI was a buzzword. Everyone wanted to use AI. So if you look at a definition, it's not autonomous intelligence, right? It's artificial intelligence. You're not building someone which can think for themselves. You're not trying to build another human, right? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to make sure we have the right processing power, right data, so that a computer can think like a human, right? That's all what we are trying to do with artificial intelligence. So if you have this capability of a machine who can do the thinking for you like a human, that's huge. I mean, if you take a example, call center, right? So if let's say there's an experienced call center agent, so these agents are actually, if you take United States, the experience that I have, these call center agents are extremely skilled. They are very professional. They understand everything. They know about the product more than even the product managers, right? They know the product in and out. So if you talk to a skilled contact center resource, like let's say a customer is calling from Florida, right? So let's take an example on that. So as soon as you see the address as Florida, the call center agent by experience knows that Florida weather is good, right? So they would ask like, how is the weather over there? Is it sunny? Are you closer to the beach? So at that point of time, you are building the rapport. As soon as the customer calls in interaction with the organization, that you are representing the brand of the organization, at that point the contact center agent is able to build rapport with the customer just by knowing the customer context, right? Where the customer is calling from. So if you look at that very simple example, how AI brings value, right? So for example, one of the clients that I have worked with, at the point of this interaction, they look at these variables of the customer. Is the customer's birthday close enough? Like certain banks, if the customer's birthday is within a week, they would say, you have your birthday on the coming next week. What do you think? What are your plans? It can go wrong also if the customer is, if the customer is not excited about a birthday, that's fine, right?
It just gives a personal touch.
So you don't need a skilled agent to do all this if you have AI, right? So you have your customer services person who can say, whatever, even right? I don't have experience in customer contact center, but if I have a script or if there is an AI technology that can tell me if the person is calling from Florida, we call it intelligent guidance. I mean, it's a concept that is going line with artificial intelligence. You say, hey, this customer is calling from Florida, why don't you ask about the weather? So you have to be very careful, right? Florida also has hurricane season, so you don't want to ask a question like, is it a good week or if it's a hurricane? So all that information can be it's customer context, right? Artificial intelligence can use that knowledge and say what to ask. So that's the first point of interaction. It could be either the customer's birthday is upcoming, it could be the customer is on a nice state, or it could be something, right? So whatever that, like out of 5 things, if the AI can say this is the best thing to us, tell the customer, that's huge. Like that's one example, like customer, like you identify the customer. And the other thing is, like if you go through a journey of a customer call resolution, so you talk to the customer and have that rapport, right? So that's all good. Then what you have to do is, then you have to understand like the customer sentiment, right? So if the customer is unhappy, experienced agent can tell as soon as they hear the voice of the customer.
Okay.
Right? So if the customer is, hello, I need to get this done, versus hello, can you help me with? You know, like you and I know we have that emotional intelligence, right? So that human nature of it. Now you have AI who can do that. You can, like, you have sentiment analysis. Like there are models that does sentiment analysis. Based on the language that the customer uses, based on the vocal tones that the customers use, we can tell if the customer is happy or not. Like based on that, you navigate the conversation, right? So you are you're representing the brand of the company in the call center application. So it's significant amount of knowledge. Like if you're at your first day, imagine your first day. First thing that the computer says, hey, tell the customer it's their birthday next week. And then the computer says, seems like the voice is not happy. They will say the customer is unhappy or something, right? So whatever, like based on that, you can have decisions also. Like based on the customer's nature, we implement decision strategies to make sure what kind of conversation that we can have with the customer, right? All that is because of AI. Then, so you have your customer identify the sentiment, and the other main thing is intent identification. Intent identification is so let's say I have experience with customer retention, right? So customer retention is at a point a customer calls and says, I want to cancel a certain subscription, right? So at that point, if you really look at the actual intent of the customer, you won't believe this, right? So sometimes customers click on the 0 number in IVR, like in your phone, like when you're in that IVR, to get to an agent fast. They don't want to cancel. They just want to get to an agent fast to do something totally different, right? And the other interesting thing is, sometimes customer calls and says, I want to cancel if they are shopping for discount offers. So you as an experienced agent, you will have that knowledge, like to understand whether the customer is shopping for a discount or they're actually trying to cancel. So my specialty is in customer retention. So when we are designing a process like customer retention, we look at all these variables. We see if the customer has called previously to cancel. You know, like you can build a pattern using artificial intelligence, scores and all that, whatever the technology that you use, right? So it could be Databricks, Snowflake, whatever the data models that you use, or Pega, Salesforce, whatever, right? But when you are building that customer experience, you are using artificial intelligence to determine if the customer is actually calling to cancel or are they shopping for a discount. Because I do it. If I want a better rate for insurance, I call and say, hey, Selingco is better. I'm going to Selingco, and then whatever the rate is. So you can train your artificial intelligence models to understand that, right? So I was talking about 3 things, right? One was like customer context, like how to make sure like where the customer is calling from. Then we spoke about sentiment analysis, and then intent identification. Again, intent identification, we do it in anything. Like it could be email, right? So customer is sending an email. So email, you have artificial intelligence model who can do everything like this. You can understand sentiment. It can identify the entities in the email, entity identification, and also you can identify the subject of what they're talking about. AI models are that strong right now. You don't need a person going through all of this and sorting and all that nonsense. You don't need to do that anymore. Artificial intelligence is there. So after you identify the intent, I'm going through the journey, right? So the next step is you have to help the customer solve whatever the intent. Like if they want to cancel, you try to retain the customer, but if they want to cancel, you might as well help them cancel. You have to have the best experience on. That's all. You have to make sure that you cancel it properly. The fastest of time, you have to make sure that you cancel. So intent identification, and the other thing is like, let's say that they're calling to update a certain thing in their process or something like account or some subscription. You have to switch the subscription from mom to dad to son. All these are processes, right? So when you get that kind of a request, AI is now intelligent enough to determine, like for example,
what is possible and what is not
exactly. So we call this process AI, right?
Okay.
So process AI, what it can do is, so let's say you specialize in sales, I specialize in retention.
Okay.
Email comes in from the customer. They look at the email, they look at the subject, identify the subject, and determine it should go to me, not if the customer is calling for retention, not to you, right?
Okay.
So you don't have to like look at the email and determine. It can do that. AI can do that. Any technology right now, business process management, I specialize in Pega, so I can talk about it, right? Process AI is something like based on, like, organizations always can say if X skill, specific skill exists, you have to route it to this person. But AI is much better at deciding the routing capability than
the manual intervention.
Exactly, because it learns over time, right?
Yeah, and also it uses data.
It uses exactly. So every interaction is an opportunity to learn from the AI perspective. So if you are, let's say both of us are on sales, right? So if you are faster in resolving something, the AI would know that you are the best person to send the sales related queries, right? You don't have to worry about it. Process AI is another thing that, you know, I get all excited because it actually does the work. So once you figure out like intent identification and then you are in the process of resolving, you resolve it at the best you can do, right? So once you resolve it is where you think of, you know, cross-selling and upselling. This is very important, right? Cross-selling and upselling is the actual point where you can increase the revenue for the company, the number, right? All the other things, it's about, you know, brand. You want to make sure the customer is happy. So the way that we design artificial intelligence systems right now is we let the AI model decide whether we should upsell or cross-sell or do nothing. Based on the data variables, AI model can decide whether you want to upsell or just let the customer go. That's the power of AI. I think like if I talk about a little bit about my experience, right? So when you are defining an AI model, this AI model can consume about 400 data elements for a customer.
Okay. That's huge.
So if you and I are similar in terms of profile, maybe it's the address that we live in, maybe it's the background, both you and me are business analysts. So it would assume me and you might have similarities. If that is the case, why don't I give a similar product to myself? Like if you like that product, I might also like. So earlier you had to do this, like people had to spend hours in analyzing data. Right now it's adaptive. So the technologies can take the decision right now and there and say like this customer would like this specific product. AI is there. AI is here to come. It's not here to replace people, right? I think that's a common misconception. It's not like that. It's there. Even LLMs, right? Like large language models, whatever. It helps you to do your work.
Yeah, true.
It's
your work.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to appreciate it, and you have to make sure that you.
Whatever the use cases that you've been telling, Sajith, I feel like that you were talking about understanding the customer and other stuff. So in the perspective of a benefit, I would say AI can touch upon 3 areas, like even starting from the acquisition of customers and also to better the journey of the customer, and also the retention part.
Absolutely.
That's also like the acquisition part, you were talking about the marketing, upscaling and other stuff as well. So it has a very wide range covering and spanning across a wide range of benefits.
Absolutely. I think I'll just add one more example. So when you spoke about campaigning right now, right? So campaigning is one of the like marketing campaigns. It's tough, right? You have people who specialize in, but AI, you know, like there's always this question: when should you send an email to a person, right? Some people say at night, some people say it's at 8 a.m.
Sure.
But AI model, let's say you want to send 100,000 emails to customers. The AI model will adapt even within the campaign. Like the technology is that advanced right now. So let's say it will phase out the delivery of the emails. It will send like 1,000 emails first and see how many people open the email. Then it will change the time and then it will again adapt based on the responses. AI will adapt always, right? It will learn and adapt. So that's yeah.
That's a very good point that you brought out, Sajith. The adaptiveness. So, which is what we cannot, we cannot cater through just an application, just a software application where the AI is not integrated.
Absolutely, that's a very good point.
Nice. That's a good point. And so that we talk about why AI and all. Do you have any recommendation as to the kind of steps that, let's say, a corporate considers integrating AI into their applications? What steps they can do to make it make a seamless integration?
I think that's a very good question, Dhanushka, because most of the organizations they try to follow a trend, right? So you look at an opinion leader and then they try to follow a trend and then they try to integrate AI.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't really need AI. Like if their process is very simple, like if it's just 3 people here trying to solve something, you don't need AI, right? It's a simple product. You only have 100 sales per month. Just do your thing. But if it is like a bigger company and you see the actual benefits of AI, like imagine the power that it can bring. Like if it can upsell your product subscription, right? Like by $5 even, right? So you make a lot of money. If you do 100,000 customers, it's $500,000, right? Just because the AI decided you can potentially do an upsell. So the power is significant. That's why. So I think that's a very interesting question. That's why BS has to be there trying to help this customer make these decisions, right? I think so the main thing is, in my experiences, right? I'll talk about my experience. If we think of AI adoption in majority of the companies that I worked for, the first challenge is people don't know about AI. First thing is some people get scared about AI. Some people have over expectations. The senior management will always have over expectations. It's not autonomous intelligence, it's artificial intelligence. You have so much processing power, it can think, you feel that it can think like a human, right? But what it does is, it processes a lot of information and gives you whatever the things that you want. So you have to make sure that the people understand artificial intelligence. Whenever I go to a client, when I have an interaction, I make sure that I take time with key decision makers to make sure that they understand what we are dealing with, artificial intelligence, right? So if you don't have the knowledge about artificial intelligence, you can't do anything. It's difficult to adopt artificial intelligence. And the other most important thing is, when you adopt artificial, it's a process. You have to identify the correct technology. There are so many tools available. So if your company is small, there is open source technology, right? You have Python is open source technology. You can always use technology that open source and use artificial intelligence. And then if it's a big company, you have options like data lakes like Snowflakes, or it could even be Databricks, whatever the technology that you want to consume. You make that decision and you move forward. And you need to get this expert. I think that's the other thing, right? So it's new to everyone. So you need to get the right experts in your table to help you, right? So right now, if you look at the career demand in US, for example, there is a significant demand for data science specialists, right? Because all organizations want to make sure that they use artificial intelligence, and you have to have the right people to help. So adoption, coming back to your question, so it's most important to have realistic expectations. You can't, artificial intelligence would not give you the whole world, right? It cannot give you like everything.
That's where we go wrong sometimes.
Right expectations. And then you need to understand artificial intelligence. Like, for example, if I'm talking to a customer, I'll talk about a technology a little bit, right? So I want to make sure, So in Pega, we have something called like a customer decision hub. It's a AI-enabled capability, right? So you have something called adaptive learning. Adaptive learning, within that black box, they use a statistical data model called adaptive gradient boosting, right? Which is not important to me or you, right? True. There is a model that's accepted by everyone, a good statistical algorithm, and then what we have to define is what are the customer variables that this model should consider. That's pretty much it. It does the rest. It will tell you what is the probability of a customer accepting a certain offer or accepting a next best action or whatever, right? So you have to know that technology, and whenever I talk to a customer, So I try to explain like this is the thing that we are using a statistical model. So then the customer does, can you explain the statistical model?
Okay.
So you have, I think that's what is great about business analyst, right? So we have that skill over time that you can go through some technology and learn it very fast, right? If my customer asks what is adaptive gradient boosting, I will spend 2 nights and make sure I learn everything about adaptive gradient boosting, and I'll extend. That's why you have to have the right people and make sure that the customers understand AI, and then you start adapting it. The important thing is, Dhanushka, as any IT technology project, you have to be realistic on how you approach the project. Also, you have to have an MVP. I'll tell you, right? When we started implementing these AI models, you know, these marketeers, they are actually very skilled people.
Okay.
They have the education, they have the right skill, they know what to present to the customer. That's absolutely true. All respect to the senior people or anyone's work, right? So they know exactly what to do. So we are going to tell them an AI model can do a better job. That's not realistic, Dhanushka. They won't accept it. I mean, humans are anyway change resistant. We can't go and tell a person your job can be done better by artificial. You can't do it. So what we did was to help them adapt. We did a lot of A/B testing. So you have to have that realistic plan of how to adapt AI. It is not going to be an overnight thing. It has to slowly progress. You have to, as any project, you have to define your MVPs. I'm sure all the business analysts know these things, right? You have to define your MVP, and you have to be that subject matter expert and help the customer to help them adapt. Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I think I was going to ask about this BA role as well. I have seen in your profile that you have played the roles of business architect and then consultant and also into the business analyst side, the senior positions. So whatever the title, regardless the title, there's a hat that we wear as a BA. I mean, so I think in the previous the answers also here and there we just talk about a BA's role in there.
Right.
How we have to make sure that we do it right. So let's say there's a requirement or a company's expectation and we have to deliver it.
Right.
But at the same time there's a role, a whole process behind whatever we do as BAs.
Right.
Is there anything else that we can add to that, Sajith, in your experience also?
Right, especially. So what I've noticed is, like, at certain point of your career, you decide you want to specialize in a certain area. So if you want to specialize in a certain domain or a certain technology, you have to make sure you learn it, right? So especially in artificial intelligence, if you are in that specific sector, you have to be a subject matter expert. You have to wear that hat like 50% of the time. Your job would be to explain people what is artificial intelligence. You need to know your thing. That's the important thing, right? So as a business analyst, I've been playing many roles as my career evolved and the position that I'm in right now. My main thing is I want to make sure that I am a subject matter expert.
That
right?
is the key point.
Key thing, right? Then you have. Anyway, you have your requirement analysis, you have your requirement workshop, elicitation, all the full process is there. Nothing changes, right? But when it's like a specific niche area like artificial intelligence, you have to bring that artificial intelligence mindset, mentality to the picture. I mean, you have so for example, if you're working on a banking project, there are domain experts, there are banking SMEs. Similar in artificial intelligence also. You have data scientists and whoever other subject matter experts, but you can't go into a meeting without knowing what artificial intelligence is. Right? You can't go into a meeting and ask like, what is that statistical algorithm? I've never heard of it. You can't go in and ask like, what is customer scoring? You can't do that. You have to know all this by the time you go to the customer. I think the key thing that has changed in my career at this specific point is it's that thing. I have become a subject matter expert. Right? So you have to do a lot of research, you have to do a lot of reading, you have to make sure. So there are the other thing is like I mean, as part of you guys also do the same thing. IIBA Chapter is known for this, right? We try to learn everything, right? You have to continue your learning. That's my, I think if there is anything that I can tell the younger generation of business analysts, you shouldn't stop learning, right? Even every 3 months I try to do some certification to keep up with the current demands, right? So artificial intelligence, if you go to a Coursera or some e-learning website, there are about 100,000 courses there. There are YouTube videos, so many YouTube videos, and you just need to look at it. So there's a certain, you fake it till you make it part also, right? There is, but over time you need to know your thing. You need to make sure you understand and learn. And
True that.
Yes.
That's interesting. And at the same time, so now that we talk about these applications, the use cases, and everything else, but always there can be a concern when we talk about the AI aspect. It deals with data, a lot of data.
Right.
And this data, it's not that we generate data sometimes, it's all about gathering data and then kind of processing them. So when we deal with this data, there's a concern always pops up with regard to the legal and the ethical aspects.
That's true.
So when we do this process, when we go through this process, how can we ensure that these are not breached and we comply with these rules and the legal aspects of this?
Right. That's a very good question, Dhanushka. There are two aspects to it, right? So AI is used, let's say, as a consultant also, you sometimes use AI. I mean, let's say you are going to talk to a customer, you are preparing for a presentation, you need content, right? So what you do is you go to ChatGPT and say, I want to give this specific content to an audience of CXOs, right?
Okay.
So the chat model will generate some content and give it to you. So if you do that, you have that ethical responsibility to tell the audience that this content was generated by a LLM. Right, that's the ethical aspect as a consultant that you have to bear.
Okay.
You need to make sure if it's not your work, you don't need credit, right?
True.
You're a business analyst. You're a valued person anyway. You don't need to do additional thing to. You don't need to. Yeah, exactly. So you explain to them this is done through LLM, whatever the technology that you use. So. But it's my concepts. This is what I wanted. That's your ethic. That's the side that as a consultant that you have to bring in, right? But from an organization, I think that's a very good question. Right now, if you look at most of the clients that I'm working with, if a customer calls and says, "What kind of data do you have about me?"
Okay.
You have to tell them exactly all the data elements that you have about the customer.
Okay.
So it could be that you're purchasing customer data from a third party. It could be customer data that you have gathered, like if you are a subscription company, you have gathered data for about take Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Netflix probably knows everything about you, right?
Yeah, true.
Like with all the movies that you watch, Spotify also, right?
That's why they suggest.
Exactly. So people say your playlist is like your personality, right? So they know your personality pretty much.
True.
So at that point, there is a question of ethics and legal aspect to it. But right now, what the organizations are doing as a practice is, if a customer calls and says, what kind of data do you store about me? They have to be open about it. They have to explain these are the type of data that we have. An organization can store whatever the subscription related data. And that's perfectly fine. Or the data that they use analytically. But you have to be transparent with the customer. These are the types of data that we store. You can call us or request us anytime, then we can provide that information for you. So that's a very good aspect that you brought. You have to be very careful if you are especially dealing with third-party data. You don't want to make the customer feel uncomfortable, right? So if you haven't given me the date of birth, but on your birthday you call and say, I say happy birthday, you'll freak out, right? Like,
True.
How would you know my birthday? It's my personal information.
True.
I don't want to share it with anyone. And the risk of storing customer data, you have so many incidents of hacking and data breaches. So you have to be very careful when you're storing
especially
the
if
data.
it is on cloud and all.
Exactly. You have to make sure that the customer data is. It's the responsibility of the organization, how well the data is protected. Yes. Yes.
That's nice. So we talked a lot about that, and then in your journey of this BA and this while working with this AI, customer service, whatever it is, have you faced any challenges?
I face
significant
challenges day in and day out, right? But I'll be really honest about it. But what I make sure is there are certain set of processes defined and that help us to make decisions, right? So if you're, let's say, doing a elicitation, for example, if you look at the IIBA, the book, DABA, right? So you have a certain set of steps for elicitation. So you go through that and you make sure you know how to elicit the requirement. So you have certain definitions of how to elicit and what are the challenges and how you overcome. All that information is already there. So you have to do your homework, right? Always, every time you have to do your homework. And at that point, let's say there's a challenge of eliciting a requirement, right? So we work a lot with data scientists. So data scientists' time is very expensive. So companies pays a lot of money to have a good data scientist working for them. So I can't go in and talk to a data scientist without knowing something. So I have had this challenge, Dhanushka, like it's a real thing. Like you go to a data scientist, they expect you to know what you are talking about. So that's what I always think. Like whenever I prepare for something, I just glance through the book and make sure that I understand this. That's how I overcome this. But then again, like overcoming, especially AI, it has been a journey for me. None of the that's very interesting. Senior management wants to push AI, but the management that we work with, they don't want to use AI. They fear that their jobs would be gone and all. We are all humans, right? So if someone is saying like, I have built a system which can do business analysis better than me, I'll also get worried, right? So most of the time, that's a significant challenge. Like when you're trying to do change management in an organization, it's common to any project. Change management is difficult, but with artificial intelligence, people are worried that their jobs are going to get replaced. So as a consultant, what I have had this main challenge, like making sure that people are comfortable. What we are only trying to do is to help you. Like if you had solved 100 cases per day, artificial intelligence will help you to make 150 cases, resolve 150 cases. And if you resolve 150 cases, your monthly remuneration or monthly commission would increase by this much. So you have to build that business case even to them. So business case, like if you build a business case to the senior manager and the organization, and you are working with a set of stakeholders, and you need to make sure that you build the case for them also, for them to help. And I said, like, adopting AI in many of the organizations, it's very tough. People don't want to use AI. So you have to take them through that journey, which will be tough. But every time, I think one of the things that I have successfully used is, I think there are so many tools and techniques that you can use as a business analyst, right? But the main thing is things like benchmarking, right? So you try to explain to them, like when you're explaining something. Netflix, for example, Netflix has one of the most prominent algorithms to suggest movies, right? So when you try to help them understand what we are trying to do with benchmarking examples, this is what Netflix did, this is how Spotify does their data algorithms. So they try to appreciate the benefits of artificial intelligence. So yes, those are some of the techniques that I've used. But again, as any project, the challenge is always managing the change part. People don't want to change. They're comfortable in what they do. Some of the call center agents that we work with, they have worked like 10-12 years at doing contact center, right? They're extremely skilled. And the other thing, I'm talking about the techniques and tools also that I've used, right? So the other main thing that helped us as customer experience designers is to not active it's passive shadowing, right? So you listen to as many calls that you can. Like all organizations now record contact center staff talking to a customer. They record it for legal purposes plus for training purposes, right? You get hold of as many training videos as you can, and then you look at the person, how they're handling it. At that point only, you can understand the pain points that they're going through. So for example, if someone is calling to, let's say, ask about the bill, if you have an artificial intelligence system which can identify what kind of billing related queries that the customer might have, you give it to the call center agent, right? So it's a matter of, so we call it the next best action, right? So we always try to make sure like we give the system can give the best action that you can help the agent talk to the customer. If they give like, this is the billing, it's last month's bill, it changed from $5 to $6. That's the reason that the customer is calling. Like, imagine as a contact center agent how empowered you are, right? It's not, they're not AI is not that it's empowering. Yeah,
that's interesting. Now, two interesting points that you brought up when you were talking about the challenges. One thing is you have to do your homework. Sure. And then the next thing is the convincing part. Like you have to bring out your business, not the business case, let's say the motive behind this.
Exactly.
It's not to replace a job, but from the managerial level to the operational level, you have to just build up the use case and then kind of convince them why we are doing this.
Absolutely.
And you nicely explained some tools that you've been using also. That's great.
And just to add, like, even newer concepts like design thinking, right? So I think
do you have any other techniques or tools that you
exactly? So design thinking it's a powerful tool to identify like where we can improve, right? So if you're running a design thinking workshop, you get a set of stakeholders to look at the business problem, and they try to, you're making them think, right?
Sure.
So most of the time as consultants, you should have your own opinion. That's a different thing. That's your opinion is what it's the value that you bring to the table. That's it, right? So you should have your opinion. But when you're running a design thinking workshop, you get the stakeholders also to think. So imagine if the idea is coming from them. Right? So as a business analyst, you have to be very clever in pointing the customer to the right direction. Right? Having your own opinion is important. But again, like your design thinking, I'm very fond of design thinking concepts, because like when you're doing a workshop and you get a set of stakeholders, write your ideas how we can use AI in this. Once you do that, you know what's their perception of AI. Like you will see like, oh, this guy doesn't understand AI at all, or this person knows AI and they want to improve. So that's an opportunity for us. I think I suggest all business analysts to like do some design thinking related course. There are courses everywhere. It's there in YouTube. It's just the mindset, right? So empathy, right? So if I don't know whether you've heard about this statistic. So there have been times like there was a research. They tried to see like whether, I'm not trying to bring gender problems here, but I'll explain to you. They tried to see like whether a male business analyst is good or a female business analyst is good.
Fine.
So then they realized female business analysts are much better than business analysts, right? So when they did a root cause analysis, but the main difference was female had more empathy. So if a customer explains the problem to me, I would be like, okay, this is your problem, this is the root cause, everything is going in my mind. But if it was, I'm just quoting research.
I know.
So if you talk to a female, they are saying they would be like, oh, you have this problem. They would empathize the problem and go through the journey with the customer. Like, what is your problem? What are your pain points? Rather than being an analytical person, they had the empathy. Now, because of design thinking, empathy is a tool for us, right? Empathy maps is a tool for us. Every time you are working on a project, you need to use these tools for sure. You need to have an empathy map. You need to know like what you're talking about, like what the customer is going through, what is your product. If you're working for a client, like what is the subject matter is going through, what is your actual end customer is going through, what is the contact center agent is going through, like are they happy doing this, what do they see, what do they feel, all that empathy map, right? So once you have the empathy map, it actually bridges the gap, right? So you are now, all of us are in an equal playing field where all of us appreciate empathy and we make sure that we help the customer make the right decisions, and all of us can become like equally good business analysts, right? The tools and techniques are available. The difference between a good BA and a not so good BA is the tools and techniques that the person knows, right? It's not no rocket science.
Yeah, true.
All of us have the same skill of building rapport. It's all that is fine. Like we have that, but once you know the tools and techniques, it's a matter of managing.
It's like more like a guidance tool, right?
Exactly.
So if we are missing something just in case, then we can use them to kind of guide us towards achieving what we want.
Exactly. Once you use these tools over time, your thinking is anyways aligned with the tools and.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good point that you brought out. Again, now that we talk about all these, Sajith, you are currently working in the United States.
Yes.
And but you have also worked in Sri Lanka.
Absolutely, yes.
So while you work in these two countries, in the level of application, do you see any difference, or is there any way that we can better ourselves? Is there any difference that you see? How we use AI into applications in this particular industry, or
right. So if you talk about at an industry perspective,
true.
Now I think I'll give a good example, right? So I came to Sri Lanka 4 days back, right? So as soon as I went to the shop, the person was like, "Matya kawaddawe ammala bohamada." Like that's like the best personalized experience that you can never have, right?
True.
The person knows me, the person has seen me grow up. And the person knows my parents, grandparents, everyone, they know. Like that's a true intelligence, right? So Sri Lankans, I feel, right? I'm not sure whether there has any research done that, but based on my experience, Sri Lankans has always been the most empathetic people that I've encountered with, because they actually worry about you, right? So they try to help you. Like, for example, in Sri Lanka, if I have a problem with my tire, there'll be 5-6 people who would come and help me. I mean, I don't even need to know them. There are cultural differences, how we have sometimes how we brought up ourselves. So that's a significant good thing about Sri Lankans and Sri Lankan industries. Like if you go to a shop, they will talk to you in a polite way. All that is there. Now our challenge would be like how can we bring in artificial intelligence also into that place. I think majority of the more advanced industries like telecommunications and all that, they do use artificial intelligence. They are right now using all the top-notch technologies like Snowflakes or Databricks or whatever. They use all of this. So it's not comparatively like a significant difference. There is nothing like that. I don't experience it. All in Sri Lankan industries are also at that level, like at that peak level where they are trying to adapt to newer technologies. Like sometimes you don't. That's the difference between a good BA also, right? So you come into a certain session, and if the customer doesn't require AI, you don't need AI, right? You want to make sure you have that transparency and make sure that the customer is doing the right thing.
True.
You are not a salesperson, you are there to help, right? So back to your question. So Sri Lanka industry is evolving, but what we can do is, especially I have looked at most of the curriculums that we have today in IT. They have artificial intelligence, and like our curriculums are the best, right? Like it's unparalleled to many other colleges in the world. So we have so much of artificial intelligence courses right now. So we are going there. So we are building a pool of artificial intelligence savvy resources. We have data science certifications right now in Sri Lanka. We are going there. So at this point, what we should do is we are helping customers outside of Sri Lanka with artificial intelligence and data science requirements. And over time, we will evolve. We will evolve to a perspective where Sri Lankans also have adopted successfully, but they are in the process. I don't see a significant difference. Like I'll give you an example, right? So in Sri Lanka, I think in most call centers, they have a mirror in front. Right? So when you're talking to the customer, you see the mirror. So if the expectation is you need to feel happy so that you talk to a customer.
So you reflect your mood.
To the customer, right? So that's brilliant, right?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So other companies would invest significant amount of money to analyze the vocal patterns and see if the customer agent is actually talking to a customer. But we are
just using a mirror.
Exactly. Sri Lankans are anyway smart, so we have that thing. We are using other techniques and tools So technology will come. It's a concept that what matters, right? So from the Kardiyanka saying, that's the same
that
thing.
gives the same personal touch that we've been talking
Exactly.
about.
So other organizations are other countries are trying to use AI to give that personalization.
True.
We already have that personalization.
True.
Right? We know people.
Yeah.
So
it's just that through applications, if it's a large customer base, we are just trying to expedite the process and then we kind of deliver more results.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the difference. All right, Sajith, we talked a lot about AI and then especially this domain industry and how we can integrate AI into these applications, what benefits we can reap out of it, and the tools, techniques and all. Let's just keep that aside and then let's come back to Sajith Samaraweera as a person. My one last question. It's a very random one. Let's say you wake up in the morning and then you go out and then at the end of the day you do your work and then you feel like I did it. What makes you that?
That's an interesting question, Dhanushka. I think, as I was telling earlier, right, if someone asks me what you want to do in 10 years, it's business analysis, right? So my biggest thing, the moment that I reach satisfaction is understanding a complex business problem.
Okay, nice.
So that has always been my thing, and if you talk to someone, so that's again you go back to tools and techniques, right? You need to know these tools and techniques to and properly analyze the problem. So most of the time, the problem that someone is explaining is at different layers, right? So you have layers of problems, and then you need to get to that root cause. I mean, identifying that is my biggest thing, like. I solved this problem today. I'm very happy. That's it. That's what I think. Business analyst has always given me that perfect satisfaction. I get business problems day in and day out, right? So
that what keeps you awake.
Keeps me
and
awake.
Pushing you forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does keep me awake. Sometimes at the middle of the night I wake up and I think, oh, this is the solution.
The answer to the question that I've been thinking a lot.
Yes,
that happens to me as well,
Absolutely.
and I can relate to what you said. Solving problems is the biggest pleasure that you can
get. Yes.
That's very nice. I think we have come to the end of this session. And we talked a lot about everything that, as I said earlier, and I think the audience also got to know a lot about these AI applications, the customer service industry, and Sajith's experience over the time, and how they are trying to apply this seamlessly and also to reap benefit out of it. So we talk a lot about, and I think you all are happy with that as well, and you all can take away a lot through that. And thank you so much, Sajith, for being here and spending your time with us here today. And it's such a pleasure to have you here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dhanushka. I really appreciate it. It was you did an absolutely great job in getting the right conversation going. And also, I must say this, right? I'm really happy with the work that you're doing with IIBA Chapter. I mean, it's like when I saw all these things going, it was a dead period for the longest that I can remember, like 8 years. I haven't seen anything from IIBA Chapter, right? So when I saw this post, I was so happy. I mean, you feel like, it's not my baby, but for some reason I feel, oh, my baby has grown up now. Now it's at that level. So thank you so much. I think Excel and all your team, everyone is doing absolutely great job. IIBA Chapter, I wish you all the best. And I think we need a good set of Sri Lankan business analysts. We already have a good set of Sri Lankan business analysts, but we have to make sure that we continuously improve. We want organizations to continuously improve, right? Why not improve ourselves? You can do whatever, like, for example, if you are having problem talking to a person, go to a Toastmasters club. There are plenty of Toastmasters clubs out there. If you don't understand something, go to YouTube. I mean, nothing is stopping you. You don't have to go to MIT to learn design thinking, right? So you can learn by yourself. So you would use those techniques, and I would love to see more business analysts joining IIBA Chapter. Very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
As well to have you here. And those were tips for the VAs out there, and hoping to bring out another interesting session very soon. We are winding up for today. Thank you.